Hey everybody, Chuck and Stacey here, and welcome back to VO Buzz Weekly. What's happening today, Stacey?
Oh, we have such a fun show with our cool, great friend. You know him as a voice actor, producer, director, coach, and the owner of the legendary recording studio here in Burbank. It's Marc Graue. Are you ready to get buzzed?
Let's get buzzed.
Turn it up.
Get ready.
You're tuned in to VO Buzz Weekly.
And now, prepare to get seriously buzzed with your hosts, Chuck Duran and Stacey J. Aswan.
Okay, you guys, our guest is a versatile voice actor you hear in commercials, promos, animation, video games. You hear him narrating Alaska State Troopers. Thank you very much. He is also a respected producer, director, coach, and the owner-CEO of the legendary Marc Graue recording studios here in Burbank, California. We are so ready to get buzzed with our friend and the wonderful Marc Graue.
Who are you talking about?
I saw you. I was looking at you the whole time. And sitting there going like,
I was like, wait a minute, my head was
me?
growing. It was like, why, really? Is that me?
Did you pet his velvet jacket?
all I have to
I
say
didn't bring my resume with
is
me. But,
finally.
Well,
I
I
know,
love
it
how
seems
you
like it's
both
been
have
forever.
like the blue, no one knew it, but look, you're so
called it hidden
coordinated.
check.
So hold on. I have to say, I wore this shirt today especially
You know why?
to match your eyes.
Your eyes.
You did.
They're
That was
go-
very sweet.
Yes.
Stacey said, that's going to match Mark's eyes. I'm like, good. Well, then I'm blue
that's
today.
why I wore my rock and roll shoes
Oh,
today.
get down,
Just for
baby,
you.
JD. You go, boy.
I love it.
You go, boy.
Thanks
go,
for being
boy.
here, Mark.
My pleasure. It's so great to see you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks,
It's great.
buddy. That's really, really cool. We've been wanting
So
to have
happy
Mark
to
on the
have
show for about 1 million years.
He's
and
busy.
He's just so busy, man. I mean, you're always doing stuff.
It's a facade, really. I'm just hanging
No,
out.
it's
I really
not.
do.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
it
Now
is.
you're trying to
I
be
just-
modest and stuff. He's
Modesty
very,
is
very
very
busy. So we're
endearing.
grateful that you've made a
Yes.
little bit of time.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's a
Absolutely.
pleasure. This is it's a treat.
Absolutely,
gonna
man.
dig into
We're going to
the
ask you some cool questions.
life of
We're going to
Marc
get into
Graue.
some really great discussions about
Maybe
demos
arguments
and
heated
talent and all, recording and real sessions and all this great stuff. So let's get to it.
Technical stuff. Cool.
So you're born in Hollywood. Is that
I
right?
was Queen of
Okay,
Angels, yes.
Born in Hollywood, basically around the entertainment industry your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Did you always know you wanted to be an actor?
No, I as a kid, I grew up at Channel 5. My dad used to do news there, and actually Daws Butler, a lot of people know, is my godfather.
Really?
Yeah. Him and Stan Freberg used to do a puppet show called Time for Being. It was a live show.
Yeah.
And so I would go and just sit and hang out as a kid and watch. One of my favorite stories was at that point, like you've got wonderful stage-like kind of things. Then they didn't have that. Everything was live, and they had these gigantic pieces of plywood with floodlights. So these poor guys, Daws was all of 5'2", and Stan Freberg was taller, but they'd be, hey, Beanie Boy, this kind of stuff with the puppets. And I remember watching, and it was so hot back there, literally one of the puppets started to melt. And so he goes, they're live, it's, live, there's no video. And he's, hey, Beanie Boy, shit! And the thing just kind of, and I remember as a kid thinking, God, this is cool. It's puppets in bad language. And of course, my mother was like, you're never going back on that set again.
Yes.
That was the end of that.
That's funny, man.
But I wish the voice stuff always was really intriguing. It was like, wow, this is kind of fun, and just kind of fell into it. I did all the circuitous route of radio, all the big hotbeds of Wyoming, Colorado, Utah. But this was long before Howard Stern's and Mark and Brian's and stuff. So I would have a cast of characters that the audience loved, management not so much.
Were you a little smutty?
Well, the door would fly. I can't believe you just said that on the air. And I apologize to the shade. It was like, oh, okay. And it was the classic, we just want you to
And you're
meet,
like, I only said shit, man.
Yeah, well, no, it's like, we just want you to meet with a consultant. It's like, let me get my stuff and put it in the car first.
Yeah.
We know where this is going.
No.
And
You packed
I
light.
always loved doing production. I think it was part of it because you could hide in the production room and put stuff together. And that just kind of turned into what it is now.
So when did you say, you know what, I want to do voiceover?
Honestly, even when I was doing radio, I remember the first time I actually got paid separately of radio to do it. It was like, wow, you mean you can get paid to do this? This is cool.
Yeah.
And that was years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I ever did a demo to send up to Hollywood. I was in San Diego at the time because I made this route and was down and then came back. And the thing was probably 4 minutes long. And I think I had sent it.
Well, back then 4 minutes was probably like short.
The going rate.
But I remember, I think I sent it to Gordon Hunt at Hanna-Barbera and got a very kind note going, you're out of your, you
You're
suck.
out of your
And it was just like, oh God, it's just, and just you slowly but surely hone skills. And that's one thing, we were talking about even earlier, is that when you do this, and even as a producer, you know what's expected. You know what the market is. You know what music work, what effects work, and even vocally, you kind of know after a while what works, what doesn't, what's really ridiculous. It's like people nowadays, it's, well, I do a dead on Homer Simpson. Dope. And it's like, well, that wasn't dead on, and Dan's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And so, there is a little bit more to that. I mean, again, I feel extraordinarily blessed and lucky. I mean, I started off with absolutely, to the point of, somebody would go, well, we need to fax the copy to you. It was, the fax line's down right now. And I was like, shit, go buy a fax machine, kind of thing.
Go buy a fax machine.
So when I came back up to Hollywood, I basically BS'd my way into a music studio, Cherokee Recording, which was a huge studio at the time down on Fairfax.
Yeah.
And I remember walking in and knocking at Pat Benatar almost, and it was like, my God, and this was the heyday of Pat Benatar, Motley Crue.
Did you take a picture with her?
Of course.
Is that when the pictures began? The picture taking?
What's
because
funny,
Marc Graue takes pictures with every celebrity that
it's funny, that actually started as kind of a joke, and then it turned into a thing where actors would come in and go, well, I want to be on the wall, and so it just kind of got bigger and bigger.
And
then people would come in and see it and then feel comfortable because, so-and-so has been here, so then it made you legitimate.
Totally. It's really cool.
It was either that or dry cleaners.
A lollipop. You get a lollipop.
So I was in charge of studio for I wanted to start a media studio doing radio and TV production, and that was the heyday of which everybody was like, God, how come on the mix it's sound, God, there's so much high end on everything.
Congestion?
Yes, just a little bit.
Yeah, the hi-hat's
this was
too loud.
late 70s, early 80s. So it was, and all those things you hear about a rock and roll studio were absolutely true. They would bring Ozzy in and lean him against a wall, and he'd go and we'd all go play pinball.
Oh, man.
But I realized that hours-wise, I just was not, as you progressively get older, it's like, I don't want to start a session at 10 o'clock at night and be up for 2 days. And so how, I don't know, but I actually talked them into letting me buy the entire studio, all of the equipment, the board, everything on credit, which I had none, and put it into the just armpit of a guest house in East Hollywood behind a Yugoslavian landlord that would come out and, Mark, you can't shed my yard. Mark, what are you talking? I live this country 6 years, I sue. It's like very happy man. And so, and that's actually how it started out. It actually took up half the guest house, and it was just in a terrible East Hollywood. It was a pretty bad area, off of Prospect over there.
Yes.
It was just,
well, then you relocated from East Hollywood. Then where did you go?
Well, into a little tiny commercial building in Hollywood, right at the corner of Hollywood Boulevard and Gramercy Place.
And then you thought you hit it the big time.
Oh, yeah. Well, very scary, but it was, it just, and did well, except that it was kind of a shady neighborhood, and it got steadily worse. You'd have Julie Andrews walking across, and it's like, "Say, baby," it's like, "Oh God," and she was very, very, very gracious, but it was a tough. And then
don't say that to Maria von Trapp.
And then when it got to the point where it was like, oh, that's not a dress, and that's okay, that's not your leg, is it? It was a scary neighborhood.
Then it was time to move.
Pretty much, and that's when we made the move to Burbank.
Yes.
Wow.
And is it true or false? Your studio, the legendary Marc Graue voiceover recording studio, is the oldest studio in Burbank? Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah. Well, for voiceover. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's coming up on 34 years, I think.
Wow.
Which is...
if those walls could
It
talk,
makes me feel so young and spry.
Well, everybody talks about Marc Graue recording studios.
And I bet they do.
They do. Well, good and bad, of course.
These aren't creditors, are they?
No creditors.
Okay, so let's just we're gonna switch hats with you a lot because you're so versatile. Okay, so thinking as a producer, director, engineer. Okay, what are for you some of you're talking to the voice talent out there. What are some of your do's and don'ts that you want them to know that's going to help them in a situation in their career?
Career-wise or demo-wise, or
going into a session, into a studio, what are some, as you because you've been behind the board, you've directed, you've produced.
Sure.
So what are some things that people need to know?
Well, the thing that's interesting now with the advent of home studios, everybody, but just taking a USB mic and plugging it in your computer and downloading Audacity doesn't necessarily mean. I think training is real because it's very much acting.
Yeah.
Right.
and I think a lot of people, well, I've got a great voice, and it's like,
it's
yes,
so not
but,
about that anymore.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
Video games, I think, probably require the most acting of anything,
Yeah.
because even if it's a futuristic, weird monster, it still needs to be real.
Yeah.
You need to be drawn into it. So I think training is really important. The interesting thing is if you book something and go to a studio, that can be a very, very different thing, because it's always laugh saying having a home studio is not conducive to hygienic skills or social skills.
Yeah.
How long have you been in there? 6 weeks. I don't like how I slated my name.
Yeah, exactly.
And self-direction can be tough. It's the upside to having a studio is having that other set on the other side of the glass going, no, do this, and so someone giving you direction.
Right.
Which is a really, really good thing. But I think, if you get a call back or in a studio, first off, own the place. When you're there to do a job, that doesn't mean be cocky. You can be, but don't, as you know, studios, you're charging hourly.
Yeah.
So you don't want to go in and go, can I just get my head, it's in my car, hang on just for a second. It's like this clock is ticking and everybody's going, again, be gracious and stuff, and then go in and have a good time. I mean, at that point, you either are there for a callback or you book the job, so they liked you. So,
Right.
but, two, be ready. Improv is a really important thing, because a lot of the time, I've had a zillion sessions where this is how you audition, and you get in and they said, no, we want this. And it's like,
they want something totally different.
and you really need to kind of think on your feet. And I think sometimes I have a great story. We were doing spots for Captain Morgan rum. And the guy's great voice. The line simply goes, Captain Morgan, what'd you say? That's it. He keeps going, Captain Morgan, what'd you say? And it's like, no, that's not. And he couldn't get it. He had practiced this so many times, and it's just a tag, that it was embedded. And what happens is your brain, the mechanics, it turns into Homer Simpson brain with the gears going like this. And he could, it sounds like an old Yiddish man. What'd you say? And it's like, no. Captain Morgan, what'd you say? Captain Morgan, what'd you say? It's like, it's what? Is talkback not working? And he couldn't get it. He was just kind of, stuck in the mode.
He couldn't get it. Did he get it?
No, actually, they had.
Did you ended up doing it?
No, they ended up having to let him go, and that does happen. The interesting thing is because we're privy to what's going on this side of the glass with a producer, a director, writers, that kind of stuff. Thank God for double glass. Although if you are on the other side, sometimes you're looking out and the guy's going. And of course, what he's saying is, I didn't want cheese on my hamburger. But you're in there going, oh shit. There goes, look, there goes my career.
I'm a really good lip reader, and sometimes I'm like, don't look, because I'm like, I can tell that, don't look.
I had one buddy who used to want to take his recorder, little mini, and put it up to listen. He goes, I figure it'll just give me. And it's like, you don't want to hear that. It's like, God, he's put on a little weight. Geez, I thought he looked younger.
Oh, gosh.
I don't want to hear any of that. It's like, no.
Mark, what are some things, because you've been in so many of these incredible sessions, man, what are some things that you've seen people do, talent or maybe bad directors, that have just blown your mind? We won't mention any names.
No.
But what are some things that you've seen?
Well, probably one of my favorites was a guy that was in for a very cheesy, was like that, call 1-800 Jam Your Ass in Debt. It was one of these just really down and dirty, call to action spots. And the guy, is this kind of, I'm used to working in much larger studios than this. And I don't know if you've seen Studio 4, but it's massive. It's, you can fit 20 people in the control room. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, so we're doing the thing. And he goes, no. And so, well, then do a line reading, if the person's, and all it was that tag, call 1-800, whatever the number was. And going, and he goes, no. Look, I just, this isn't, look, I'm going to conduct you. And everybody kind of goes like that. He walks in front of the console and goes like this. And sadly, which you're not supposed to, we all went just because had he had a cape, it would have been, I don't need this, exit stage left. So, talent-wise, just be prepared. I think, big thing is if they go, that's great, don't go, can I just do it? If you want to do another take, great, but don't hammer it. If client's happy, director's happy, great. Then you did your job and you went. The thing is that you want to leave not only with them feeling good, but almost like wow, this is better than we thought it was going to be. And everybody's happy and feels good. It's like, when you do it, and if somebody goes, God, this is just great, that's very gratifying.
What about being late or maybe overstaying?
Being late, never. Big, no.
Like, how early should you be to a set? To a session?
In LA, I mean, obviously, if, in Burbank and it's at, Lime or something, or a Formosa, and you have to go all the way to Santa Monica, it's like, well, tomorrow at 9, let's leave now.
You get a hotel the night before.
Much better to be there an hour early. And sit there and wait than it is to be. Yeah, I had a session like that where I walked in. There was an accident on the 405. Walked in, and you've got like 10, 12 people in the control room, and they all, and you're like, and so, again, light in the moment, it was like, guys, I'm really sorry, my hand is killing me. I've been on the 405 for the last hour going like this.
Yeah.
So they kind of went, and that was the reaction, and then you're in the booth. But it's not one of those, drawn out kind of a thing. The thing that's very important, read people.
Yeah.
There's some sessions that are light and good. There's directors that are phenomenal that you just know and feel comfortable with and know right where they're going. And there are some directors that are very antagonistic, and their idea of direct is, no, that's not what I said. No, it needs to be, and then you get, like this.
So this is good. So there are directors that might sound like they're not digging what you're doing, but it's just how they communicate.
Right, and they're very, and a good director brings you to the dark side.
I like talking about this stuff, Mark, because, there's guys out there that don't live in L.A.
Right.
You know what I mean? And maybe go to other studios in Atlanta or wherever that maybe deal with this kind of stuff, or even on a phone patch session where they're being directed and like, oh, wow. And we don't want them to get freaked out. We want them to understand all the different possibilities.
Yeah.
And again, you just sit there and go with the flow and go, great.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow, baby. Okay, I am sitting in between. I'm sandwiched between the gods of demo production.
Wow, gods of demo production.
And I love that you coordinated your wardrobe.
That's great, Stacey. So you want to talk about us, Chuck?
Well, you know what? I'll talk about you.
Wait, I'm not done.
Oh, okay.
No, obviously, you both have such an incredible reputation, your skill set. Many times Chuck refers people to you, you refer people to Chuck. You guys have a beautiful camaraderie, which I think is great and speaks volumes to both of your integrity and your character, that there's room for everyone, which I love. What do you think are some misconceptions that actors have about making a demo?
Well, you reach a certain, there's a certain level. Chuck is at that level. When you are in L.A., you're dealing with the top talent in the world. And I don't mean that like, oh my God, the top talent in the world. But you're dealing.
You do.
But you are dealing with the top agents in the world, the top talent in the world. And so you know how to do. If someone comes to you, you know what you're doing. That's what your job is.
Yeah.
Right.
So realize that you're putting yourself in your hands, in my hands, and that's what our job is to do. If after the fact, if somebody goes, well, gee, I really like that spot or whatever, because you always put it in an order that you feel works.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's a very arbitrary kind of thing. It depends entirely on what they want, but I think, the thing is, too, is that a demo needs to sound very real. Yeah. And people don't understand sometimes the amount of time and stuff. Little things like, a back time and or something when you go this, the music, a stop.
Yeah.
Da-da-da. Can this really happen? Yes, it can. Boom, music kicks in.
Exactly.
Well, there's a lot more to that than just going, like, here's the theme from Rocky, and I did that on this restaurant spot I was in.
Right.
And the thing is now, a lot of people do demos at home, and you can spot it almost immediately, even as far as like, well, that's from this library. There used to be a really crappy sound effects library called Pepper Tanner, and the guy would he'd come in and go, cat meowing. Meow, meow, dog barking. Woof, woof. Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And the thing is that, if you're that demo, that's your calling card. It's like a headshot for an actor or an actress. The thing is, they can't see you. They don't know your personality. They can't. They have no idea you are that MP3.
Yep.
And so that thing better hit play and go, holy shit, you got to come here and listen to this.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's
and one thing that I will say is that you mentioned, they have to sound real, like real spots that have been produced to really air. I get so many people that call me and say, yeah, I just did a demo, like 2 days ago. They just got their demo, their brand new demo that they paid a lot of money for, same money that they would have spent with you or I.
Right.
And they've sent it to agents, and the agents have told them, I can't use this. It sounds homemade.
Right.
And I listen to it and I'm like, wow, it does sound homemade. So it's really, really important, I feel, when somebody's out there picking a demo producer, they really need to listen to their work and compare it to whatever it is that they're going to work with. Because here's the thing, Marc Graue produces spots that are going to go on the air. Therefore, when he's producing a demo, he knows what these things need to sound like. Right?
Well, and vice versa. I mean,
exactly. And I do the same thing.
Sure.
But
it's about you right now.
Well, the other thing is, though, too, is that sometimes I think it's really great to have that extra set of ears.
Yes.
And even in directing when you're voicing it, because, again, self-direct, so there's a lot of people you listen to, and it's like, but you're doing exactly the same thing. There's no acting chops there. I mean, it's like a commercial demo is still going to have variety. It's a lot more constrained.
Right.
It's not like a video game or animation demo. But, or even on a promo demo, it's like stick with what, don't try and go, in a world, it's outside waiting to kill you. If you've got that in a world, big boy, then great. Then that's where you should go. But people try and pattern themselves after assuming, I mean, you look at, Cipriano and Reno Romano. I mean, a lot of guys do higher register stuff, and they're phenomenal at it. They're not all doing the Ashton Smith, balls of God kind of thing.
Right.
I like the term.
Right. I'm not familiar with that. I've heard voice of God, but not
it's a technical phrase.
avocados of God. So continuing on that, what do you think are the elements of a great demo? First of all, if someone comes to you and you say, oh man, I don't know if you're ready yet, what do you say to them? Do you say, great, let's go, or do you say, you're not ready? How do you handle that?
You have to handle it with kid gloves because you're dealing with egos, obviously.
Right.
Usually you try and go, I would at least work on some more training and really try and there's some people, it's sad to say, but there are some people that it's like American Idol, that are just, and now I go, and they're like, okay, that's great. You don't know, I'll show you, and they get very upset because, again, it's a very personal thing, and they feel like you're slighting them personally. Yeah. The thing is, I think it's, be honest with yourself. There's some people that animation, character voices and stuff, they are phenomenal at that. They just come in and it's like, wow, holy moly. And then there's other people that just don't get it and probably never will. Yeah. I mean, it's and that sounds terrible. It sounds like you're being this arrogant, like, well, you just you smell that.
Yeah, but I mean, you need to know. Listen,
but,
it's
really, and I always tell people, it's like, realize that if you're doing this and throwing your hat in the ring, you are now competing with all the people that you look up to. Yeah. I mean, that you mentor or go, gee, I wish that, I would love to be there someday.
Right.
I mean, that's your competition.
Yeah. Right.
So you need to really, really, really have that A game and make sure that demo is going to jump when you hit play again, that it's really something that's really, really going to drive, and that can be comedy, it can be drama, it can be production elements, but something that really, it's like if you take a song like Pharrell, Happy. Yep. Even if you can't stand that style of music, it's a hook. You can't help but go, because it's produced well.
Right.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So just taking a music bed and throwing it, and there are, I always say, just do your homework. It's not hard to Google something and see, what it is. And people go, well, gee, that's, because there's a guy that'll do it for $700. There's a guy that'll do it for $600. And it's like, but you realize that's like buying, a crappy used car and go, well, yeah, I got it for $200. Well, chances are it's going to run like that.
Yeah, well, I always tell people
you're not going to win the
that
Indy
say
500.
that, I would say, well, you could paint your own car.
Well, yeah,
but it's going to look pretty crappy.
And people will know that.
Yeah, and everybody will know that.
And that's the key. I mean, you want a demo basically that sounds as if, gee, you did this McDonald's spot.
But the thing is, I think also a misconception is, if it's a regional market. I mean, the regional markets are competitive as well. You have a lot of large market talent with regional agents. So thinking, if I have a demo that's sort of regional and subpar, it's going to be fine. And that's not really the case.
Well, I think it's wise in doing like a commercial demo to add some regional spots in it. Like if you're doing a Lexus spot, I mean, obviously you're not Maurice LaMarche. So, tagging it with seeing your, Southern Florida Lexus dealers or something to regionalize it a little bit, makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense to, somebody that lives in Pocatello, Idaho, that's got, that's all ABC, NBC, Fox, Budweiser, Ford, it's like, that's not going to be too real.
Right.
You want that sense of, wow, I didn't know the guy had done that, or girl,
But even the sound beds and the quality of the production has to be.
Sure, absolutely. And especially with the internet, I mean, everything is out there. It doesn't matter where you are, it's still available.
Absolutely.
And
how do you stay on top of like the trends and stuff that's happening right now in all categories of, not just as a voice actor, but also maybe as a producer as well?
I don't know. I'm too old now.
Are you on the trend? Are you on top of your game?
Are you on top of the trends, or we're going to have to teach you some trends here, Marky Mark?
I think I am.
Wait, are you under the game?
I'm on top of something, and it's not comfortable. No. I think you can spot trends. It's like if you, even voice-wise, 20, 25 years ago, everybody was doing that Gary Owens in beautiful downtown Burbank, kind of thing. Then it went to that very monotone, I got up this morning, went to work, got home, my wife said, I don't know what you're doing. Then I went to bed, got up, had breakfast, went, it was that very flat thing. Then the Gen X read, which is that very much like McDonald's, screw you, I don't care if you got here, you suck. That's just that very aloof. Now it seems... the real reads, they still want, but the thing is, there's room for everybody. It doesn't mean, if you have a radio voice, and a lot of radio people want to switch over into voiceover, utilize those skills. Promo stuff obviously is a no-brainer. Just slip into that. But, I've had guys with a radio thing that's, but I am the guy next door. And it's like, really? If I was living next to Carol A. or something.
Exactly.
So I think it's, in that case, it's doing what, and there is room for everybody. Age is fine, but do age-appropriate copy.
Right.
We did
That's important, man. How many demos do you hear that you're listening to it, and it's an 18-year-old girl doing a product that sounds like it's for a 55-year-old woman, and you're like,
talking about retirement
this person
funds
would never
and-
get
we had a...
I'm talking about one more thing in regards to demos that Mark and I hate. and that you shouldn't do, because there's some people out there that do this, and you need to stop. And that is that, a brand new person, you know who you are, a brand new person will go in and take one class at, say, Kalmanson and Kalmanson, finish one course. And now they think they're experts in the voiceover business. They come in to do a demo. Yeah, they got some chops. They're pretty cool. But then they want to take control of what that demo should sound like, from the music that's appropriate and the sound effects that are. And so they're going to a pro who does this for a living, right? That's all they do. They don't paint houses on the side and making. And then they want to take control, and then the pros come in to do a demo, and they're like, "Hey, man, it's on your hands."
Because they know that's what you do.
So,
that's
So.
Well, it's the same thing as like, when you hear, big acts hiring a music producer. It's like you don't go in and go, well, no, this is what, it's like you're hiring that person because they know what they're doing. They know what the equipment does. They have the M&E, the music and effects, what music libraries, effects, what goes where. Again, there is a definite art to that. Voiceover is very, very different than music.
And most importantly, guys, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but most importantly, this all boils down to, when I'm producing a demo, and I know when even Mark's producing a demo, it's not because of what we like. We're producing something because we know what the agents want to hear and need to hear. We know what buyers need to hear in order for them to go like, that works. And so we're doing it to help you guys get work and make things happen.
And that's a good thing, because a lot of people pattern themselves. No, I heard this, I really want to do that. And it's like, but your voice doesn't work for that.
Exactly.
And realize that 3 different people doing the same spot, the mix is going to be inherently different on each one. The music will be different, the effects will be, because it could be overbearing if the voice is softer, or if it's older sounding, you're not going to use the same style of stuff.
Exactly.
And that's huge. And it's not just, again, slapping a music bed or bad, free sound effects off the internet kind of thing, because you can spot that, and agents know that.
Exactly.
They can spot a homemade demo instantly.
Well, and also I think something that's important for people to realize is once it goes out on the internet, I mean, if you don't have licensed effects, licensed music, you can get into trouble.
Big time.
Spend money on.
Yeah, big time. I've seen
intervention.
Huge.
That's why we have you here.
$2,500 a pop.
But people put it out there, and then they go, "You have to take your demo down," and it's like, so you need to make sure that whomever you use is using stuff that's licensed, that you're not going to have to end up.
And the thing is, too, with that also, I mean, so if you're using, somebody's like Pharrell, whatever, on a, they're going to spot that immediately and go, really? And I mean, even a buyer or an agent's going to listen and go, well, there's no way. That's not.
That would have cost him like $1 gazillion.
Even if it's the karaoke version.
But you're right in that you're coming to a person for a specific reason. Mm-hmm. So let them go. It's like that's what I've done forever. That's what you've done for. I mean, you know exactly what works. And having somebody over your shoulder going, no, it needs to be a bigger dog. No, I don't like. No, do you have any Doberman pinchers? It's like, trust me, it's okay. We'll get no. I just don't. And it's like, let's do this here. We can do this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's great, man. Boy, we could sit here and talk about that for days, right?
On tonight's episode of Demo Rant, our guests are.
Obviously, you audition a ton. Do you like auditioning?
Yeah, I do. I do. There's times that it becomes overwhelming. I mean, an average day.
Like, because the volume
is, I would say is between 8 and 12 auditions. An insane day may be upwards of 30.
Wow.
And that sounds like, God, that's wonderful. But there's times where it's, I refer to it at home as the talking. I don't want to go in the talking place.
The talking
because
place.
It does
it's tiring.
And when you have bi-coastal age, we need this at 7 a.m. New York time. And after, even voice-wise, by 9, 10 o'clock at night, everything sounds like Marty Ingalls.
Oh, yeah, totally,
like,
exactly.
What the hell happened,
So auditioning, that much, are you like pretty much look at it, okay, boom, go, see you later, bye? Do you put a lot of thought into it, or you just go with your gut?
No, it's you look, you get an overall feeling of what it is, and that's a key too for audition stuff. Is when you make that choice, there is no right or wrong, but you have to believe in it 1,000%.
Yeah.
The problem is that people, especially with home studios, will go through and they'll do 10, 20, 30, and just go, God, I don't like how I slated my name, and they'll go and then they'll very meticulously edit everything, and unless you are a remarkable editor or cutting in room tone, it's like it sounds like they've got a gate on, and it's like, that's amazing. You didn't breathe once in 3 minutes, And in that respect, I think that's why a lot of the time with commercial sessions, go, God, it's crazy. They had me do 20 takes. They use the first take because it's. I hate saying the word. It's organic. Sounds like we should be looking at a beach and smoke pot. Do you have any yogurt? Because what happens is your brain mechanically, when first off, you're taking a piece of copy that's not yours, that someone else wrote, and you're trying to make it sound natural. So things, specific words, pacing, that's the only thing you have to bring to that audition is you. Yeah. I mean, there's 500 other people reading the same copy. So why are they going to hire you? Because you're you. You're different than anybody else. Right. But that being said, you need to kind of just do it and let it go, because by the time you're getting into 10, 12, 15 reads, your brain's going, okay, I'm supposed to build more depth here and laugh here, and then it becomes this crazy where and then you're trying to edit it all together, and it's like, it's Mike, we're going here. And it's like, that sounds great.
Well, that was part 1 with the very cool Marc Graue. We're going to be back next week with part numero 2.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, keep up with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. And just remember, you always have time for a little buzz.
Come on, come on, come on and get buzzed with us.
VO Buzz Weekly is sponsored by Chuck Duran's Demos That Rock. The voiceover demo producer to the stars is now available to you. Visit demosthatrock.com and take your voiceover career to the next level.
See you next time. And remember, you always have time for a little buzz.